Imagine stepping into a room full of laughter and clinking glasses. The air thick with the scent of fresh-cut flowers and expensive cologne. Knowing you're the ghost at your own family's feast. That's how it started for Emily Hayes that crisp autumn morning in Chicago. At the grand ballroom of the historic Palmer House Hotel. She paused at the entrance. Her simple navy pantsuit blending into the shadows while everyone else shimmered in designer labels. The invitation had arrived at her FBI field office. Not her apartment, slipped under the door like an afterthought. No personal note. Just guest of the Hayes family in bland font. Emily adjusted her concealed badge, the one that marked her as a senior special agent, and took a slow breath. This was Michael's day. Her brother's promotion to executive director at one of the biggest consulting firms in the Midwest. But as she scanned the room, seeing her parents, Robert and Susan, beaming at the center of it all, a familiar ache twisted in her gut, the kind that whispered, "You're not really here." She moved quietly through the crowd, her low heels muffled on the plush carpet, drawing no eyes. A waiter mistook her for staff, pointing her toward the kitchen entrance with a hurried "deliveries that way." "Miss." Emily met his gaze steadily, her voice calm but edged. "I'm family." He stammered an apology and vanished. But the sting lingered. A quiet reminder of how easily she faded into the background. Across the room, Robert had his arm slung around Michael's shoulder, laughing that booming laugh he reserved for impressing clients. Susan glided from group to group, her pearl necklace catching the light, dispensing hugs like currency. Emily found a seat at a peripheral table, half hidden behind a pillar, where the place settings were generic, no name card for her. Just an empty spot amid the crystal and linens. From there, she watched the celebration unfold like a play she'd never been cast in. The banner overhead read, "Congratulations, Executive Director Michael Hayes," and the applause for his speech rolled in waves, each one deepening the hollow in her chest. As the slideshow flickered to life on the massive screen, Emily's fingers tightened around her water glass. Photos of Michael as a chubby toddler in overalls, grinning at his first bike. High school prom with a corsage too big for his lapel. College graduation cap tossed high. Office milestones with plaques and handshakes. The room cooed and chuckled. But Emily counted not a single image of her. No shared childhood snapshots. No awkward teen vacations. Nothing from the years she'd spent climbing the ranks in federal law enforcement. It was as if she'd been cropped out, pixel by pixel, until only Michael's story remained. A woman at the next table leaned over to her companion, whispering just loud enough. "I didn't know they had a daughter. Thought he was an only child." Emily's throat burned, but she didn't react. Instead, she let the omission sink in. A slow poison that had been dripping for decades. They choose this, she thought. Every time. The applause swelled again as the slideshow ended. And Robert raised his glass to Michael, the son who made us proud with every step. Emily lifted her own glass in silence, toasting the invisible line they'd drawn around her life. The tension coiled tighter as lunch was served, plates of seared salmon and artisanal salads clattering down. Emily's table was last, her meal arriving cold, the server avoiding her eyes. She poked at it mechanically, her mind replaying fragments of betrayal, the holidays where her calls went unanswered, the birthdays marked by generic cards with no mention of her achievements. Robert's voice boomed from the head table, regaling guests with tales of Michael's relentless drive, how he'd conquered the corporate ladder like a true American success story. When a guest asked about the rest of the family, Robert waved it off with a chuckle. "Oh, Emily? She does some security work downtown. Keeps to herself. We're all about privacy in this family." The laughter that followed hit like a slap. reducing her undercover ops in Miami, her stakeouts in border towns, her briefings in the bowels of the Justice Department to something trivial. Laughable. Emily's jaw clenched, the anger simmering low, a pressure building behind her ribs. Privacy? Or shame? She caught Susan's eye across the room, a fleeting glance, then a quick turn away, as if acknowledging her might shatter the facade. Pushing back from the table, Emily slipped into the hallway for air, the muffled chatter fading behind her. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through old emails, commendations from superiors, photos from ops where she'd posed as a dealer to infiltrate rings. The scar on her arm from a knife fight in Dallas, still faintly visible. Why had she stayed silent all these years? To protect them? Or because their rejection had carved out into her bones? Returning to the ballroom, she overheard Michael at the bar, boasting to colleagues, "Yeah, my sister's in law enforcement, helped clear some red tape for our last conference. She's got connections." He said it casually, like borrowing a tool. Not like she'd risked her life coordinating with SWAT to shut down a smuggling operation that could have targeted his firm's events. Emily approached, her voice low and steady. "Next time you drop my name for clout, Michael, at least get the details right." It wasn't red tape. It was lives on the line. He blinked, forcing a grin. "Whoa. Lighten up. It's networking. Family helps family. Right?" She stared, the betrayal sharpening. "Only when it's convenient for you." The pressure mounted, each interaction a thread pulling tighter. A child tugged at her sleeve, a niece from a cousin's side giggling. "Auntie Emily, Grandpa said you're like a mall cop. Do you chase bad guys in carts?" The innocence twisted the knife deeper, exposing the family's casual cruelty. Emily knelt, forcing a smile. "Sometimes the bad guys are closer than you think, kiddo." As the girls scampered off, Emily's resolve hardened. No more swallowing the poison. She unclipped her FBI badge from inside her jacket and pinned it openly, the gold shield catching the chandelier light. Heads turned subtly, whispers rippling. "Wait. Is that?" Susan noticed first, gliding over with that practiced poise. "Darling, maybe tuck that away. This crowd's more boardrooms than badges." Emily met her gaze, unyielding. "Why? Afraid it'll steal the spotlight from your perfect son?" Susan's smile faltered, a crack in the armor. "We're proud of you, Emily." Just discreetly. The lie hung heavy, fueling the slow burn toward explosion. Back at her seat, Emily felt the shift, the room's energy tilting, curiosity brewing. Then the TV mounted on the wall pinged with a news alert, the volume cutting through the dessert course. Breaking. FBI-led raid dismantles major East Coast fraud syndicate. Senior Agent Emily Hayes credited with orchestrating the multi-year sting. Her photo flashed stern. Invest and earpiece. The operations stats scrolling, millions seized. Dozens arrested. The ballroom stilled. Forks hovering. Eyes darting to her. Robert's glass trembled, spilling champagne across the tablecloth. "What the?" he muttered, his face paling as guests pulled out phones, Googling her name, murmuring, "She's been on Capitol Hill briefings? Why didn't anyone say?" Michael froze mid-laugh, his triumph souring. Emily didn't stand, didn't gloat. She simply watched their world crack, the silence they'd imposed now deafening them. This is what erasure costs, she thought. The emotional dam breaking as years of buried hurt surged forward, not in tears, but in quiet power. The revelations cascaded, drama unfolding like a storm. A guest approached, a former senator Emily had extracted from a hostage situation in Atlanta years back. "Agent Hayes," he boomed, raising his glass. You saved my ass when no one else would. To the real hero here. Applause trickled, then swelled. Guests clustering around her with questions. Handshakes. Belated respect. Robert tried to interject. His voice strained. Well, folks, that's our Emily, always full of surprises. But it rang hollow. His control slipping. Susan whispered furiously to him, her composure fracturing. Emily rose finally, moving to the podium uninvited. The mic still live from Michael's speech. For years, she began. Voice steady but laced with raw emotion. I've been the footnote in this family story. Erased from photos. Dismissed as security, while my brother got the glory. But my work, saving lives, dismantling empires, doesn't need your approval. The room hung on her words, the tension exploding into gasps. You betrayed me with silence. Now, hear the truth. Michael confronted her later, away from the crowd, his face twisted in resentment. You just had to ruin my day. Huh? Make it all about you. Emily's eyes narrowed, the psychological scars flaring. Ruin? You built your pedestal on my invisibility. The price of your choices is facing the fallout. He stormed off. But the damage was done, their bond, already frayed by favoritism, snapped under the weight of exposed lies. Robert pulled her aside next, his bluster gone, replaced by a desperate plea. Emily, we were protecting you from the danger. The questions. She laughed bitterly. Protecting yourselves? You mean? From a daughter who outshone your golden boy. Susan joined, tears streaking her makeup. We love you. But it was easier this way. Emily stepped back, the betrayal crystallizing into resolve. Love doesn't hide. It doesn't cost this much pain. As the evening unraveled, Emily slipped out through a side door, the cool Chicago wind whipping her face. She drove to her parents' suburban home in Oak Park, the one she'd rarely visited since joining the bureau, to retrieve a forgotten file from her old room. Rifling through drawers, she found it buried under junk mail. A sealed envelope from the White House, an invitation to a classified honors ceremony. Months old. Unopened by her but clearly intercepted. The final betrayal hit like a gut punch, confirming their fear wasn't of her failure, but her success. She pocketed it, leaving without a word. The emotional toll settling in, not rage, but a weary liberation. The price of my silence was my soul, she realized. But reclaiming my voice costs them everything. Days blurred into a whirlwind of fallout. Calls from media flooded her phone. CNN, Fox, local affiliates wanting her story. The unsung hero narrative exploding online. Emily accepted selectively, speaking not for revenge, but catharsis. Detailing the psychological toll of familial erasure, the isolation, the self-doubt, the quiet rage that had fueled her career. Michael lost a key client amid the scandal, his perfect image tarnished by whispers of sibling rivalry. Robert and Susan faced social exile, their country club friends distancing, the facade crumbling under scrutiny. Emily didn't gloat, she mourned the family that never was, the choices that had scarred them all. In a quiet DC summit weeks later, she keynoted on resilience. Her voice steady. Betrayal teaches you to build walls, but truth tears them down. I paid the price in silence, now they pay in regret. As applause thundered, Emily stood tall, her revenge not in destruction, but in rising undeniable, the emotional scars forging unbreakable armor.